Hello, my name is Michael. I'm the creator of Attention Bazaar, an online store where you can find mugs, t-shirts, and tote bags with inspiring slogans on them aimed at personal development. You'll also find clothing and accessories with quirky, interesting designs on them created by me. Today's topic is toxic work environments, strategies for coping with and navigating such a thing. It hadn't occurred to me before to do a video on this until earlier today when I met with a client and she described a toxic work environment and how she has coped with it and what she's going to do next. And afterwards, I was remembering all of the many people I've worked with over the years who've been in toxic work environments, and it's really taken a lot out of them. It also prompted me to think a little further and identify the strategies that I've seen people use and that I think can be used depending on your situation. And I want to talk about those strategies today. Before talking about those strategies, I want to basically say what I think a toxic work environment is. It's a place basically where your needs aren't met. Basic needs for support, for clarity in what your job is, for lines of communication, for where to go to when you have questions or problems that need to be solved. A toxic work environment doesn't provide this. It can be very critical, punitive, manipulative. Agreements might be made about how things will work and then they're not kept. There can be a lack of boundaries between work and personal time and an expectation that you're available round the clock. And if this wasn't part of your agreement when you signed on, why is it now, you might ask? The way I've heard certain management described over time has been very interesting to me, and it makes me wonder how people like that get in those positions. There seems to be, in a toxic work environment, one's boss or supervisor or manager can seem to take a lot of pleasure, excessive pleasure in having power and wielding it a bit arbitrarily. The impact of all this is that we don't feel good. We feel lousy. We feel stressed out, chronically about ready to collapse, whether it's physically or just emotionally. That feeling of dread going into work in the morning, when Monday morning rolls around and we have to go back, or we return from a holiday and we have to go back. I think most people listening to this will know what I'm talking about. You've experienced it. What are the ways we can cope with that? The first strategy is to submit and comply. Basically, you just do what you're told. You don't complain. You don't ask questions very much. And on top of that, you internalize a sense that maybe you're inadequate. You may have the imposter syndrome in this toxic work environment because you feel that you're really not good enough, because that's the message that you're often getting. You blame yourself. You hunker down. You do everything you can to meet every expectation that gets thrown at you. You suck it up, get on with it. This can seem necessary depending on our economic situation. Maybe we don't see an option for another job. We have to put food on the table. We have to put a roof over our heads, and we may have dependents who are relying on us to do the same for them. And we can feel stuck. that's a tough place to be. Maybe I'll come back at another point and talk a little bit more about surviving that. But a couple of the strategies might help. The second strategy that I've heard people use, I'd call faking it. Pretending to go along, learning the language, learning the key words and the buzzwords and the signals that show that you're on board with the company's agenda. You do little things that signal that you're not going to be a problem. You understand what's expected, and you're not objecting to it, and you're doing what you can. But in the meanwhile, maybe you're not buckling down quite as much as they might expect you to. You're putting on an appearance. This can be a way to get by for a while. Sometimes people get through a whole life that way. There's a cost. One of the costs is that it's hard. It's stressful. It takes a lot of energy, and we can feel a bit exhausted by it. It's not quite as brutal as complying and submitting, but it still has its cost. And another cost can be a feeling of inauthenticity. We really are an imposter. We spend a lot of our lives pretending to be something we're not. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, more of our life is spent putting on a charade. That can become a problem. Third strategy, third tactic for dealing with a toxic work environment. Challenge it. Complain. Ask for things that you need. Don't just submit and don't just fake it. Actually stick your head up. Be the squeaky wheel and hope that gets the grease. Try to address an issue with your direct supervisor or manager. If you're not able to succeed there, go over their heads. See if you can't get something done that way. Maybe you have a labor union. Maybe there's an outside arbiter who can be brought in to help mediate some kind of conflict that's going on. But it has to start with bringing a complaint or making a request. This can be quite scary, especially if it's truly a toxic environment. The fear, of course, is that there will be retaliation. It'll be futile. You won't get what you want, and things will just get worse. But it doesn't always go that way. Sometimes we can believe that things are impossible when they're not, that people are just tyrants when they might have some decency or reasonableness to them that we can appeal to. So, yeah, I'd say this is a step up. This is a strategy that just might put you in a place that doesn't have to feel so toxic because it's changing. Maybe you make a proposal for a policy change or a procedure or a process change in the way things are done that eases your workflow or helps you to be more connected through communications with the people that you need to be connected with, hear from, and share things with. Maybe things can be made better. And maybe this is not just for you. Maybe you're not the only one suffering in this toxic environment. And the change that you might be able to bring about will help everyone. And if it's not just a toxic workplace, but if there's some workability there, there ought to be some gratitude that you spoke up, pointed out a problem that could be remedied, and make employees happier. That's a happy story, huh? A strategy that if it works, it could have a good outcome. But you may be in a work environment in which you've tried that repeatedly, or you've seen others try it, and you've seen that it doesn't get anything done. Nobody changes. Things just get worse for them for having spoken up. Fourth strategy, simply one word: quit. What's that country song? The fantasy of take this job and shove it. Basically, yeah, walking away, removing yourself from that environment. That can be a very difficult choice. There can be a lot at stake. Your career advancement might be at stake. Maybe as toxic as this place is, at least it shows that you've done the work. You might learn things, despite the place, that are useful. It might be one horrible rung on a ladder that you're climbing that you can't afford to step off of for the sake of your career. It may be an economic pressure that makes it very difficult to quit, as I mentioned. For those that I've worked with who've decided to quit after struggling in a toxic work environment, it basically has come down to this. It's a stark clarity, a recognition that happens, which is the risks of leaving this job are less than the risks of staying in this job. My mental health, my emotional health, my physical well-being has been put into jeopardy for a long time. I'm worn down, worn out. Every Monday morning I feel dread. Every time I come back from a holiday, it just takes a Herculean effort to get myself back into that place. And I'm afraid something's going to break inside me. Staying there is risking that. That's a greater risk than the possibility I won't find another job or my career won't advance so fast. Sometimes we just have to make that break. We have to draw a line and say, no more, no more. Okay, so there are toxic work environments that I've described, all those qualities that make them stressful. And the four strategies, basic strategies we can have are to submit and comply, to fake it and pretend, to challenge through complaint and request, and to quit. I hope you're not in a toxic work environment. I hope you're in a very supportive work environment, and this listening to me talk about this was academic for you. And maybe you had enough curiosity to listen to the whole thing, but you really don't feel like it's your problem. But for those of you where it is a problem, I wish for you to be able to find the strategy that you need to navigate that. Of all four, I'd say the only one that I really highly don't recommend is submit and comply, particularly if it comes with blaming yourself and feeling shame and inadequate. At least try to get to the place where you're faking it because you recognize this is an unjust environment and that you need to protect yourself. You may not be able to leave, but you can at least avoid more trouble than you need by faking it. Again, this is not ideal. I would say better than that is to challenge. And if that's a strategy that you will dare to use, may you have some success with it. May it make a difference. May you not have to take the great risk of being unemployed. May it make enough of a difference. And if it's a truly toxic environment, may you know when to pull the plug, throw in the towel, draw the line, get yourself out. Preserve your well-being for another fight in a better arena where you're not just having the lion set upon you. You've got a fighting chance. Okay. Be well. Toodaloo.